Hey now, everybody. We are back, brand new episode. And once again, I'm joined with my good buddy from out in California, Chris Hall. Chris is one of the best blacktail hunters and great whitetail hunter as well. But chasing blacktails in California is no easy job. And Chris is one of the best guys at doing that. And super excited for Chris in this season and what he just accomplished. And there's some great takeaways on mentality with this hunt that Chris mentions when some of the things just don't seem to go right. Never give up. So, hope you guys enjoy this show. Okay, hey now, everybody. We are back after some trials and tribulations today, but excited to have Chris Hall with me after his mighty blacktail hunt. What's up, Chris?
Hey, Brandon, what's up, man?
Nothing, man. Are you coming at us live from Death Valley?
Shoot, man. I'm in Silicon Valley. You're close. Navigating the Bay Area traffic here.
I knew it was one of the valleys. You have Death Valley, Silicon Valley, Porn Valley. What else is out there?
Big Blacktail.
That's right.
Buck.
That's
Sometime.
right, man.
We get lucky. Oh, man.
Well,
it was an awesome opening weekend for me, man.
Yeah, for sure. Well, congrats on that, man. Super excited. Every year it seems like I posted in my Instagram, I know hunting season is here when I get texts from Chris Hall because he has one of the most early seasons around out in California for blacktails. So, but man, super excited to get that text. But excited about this story as well. Chris had, talked to me recently right before the hunt, and you had pretty much discovered or got on a new piece of ground. So, tell us kind of how you put all this together.
A lot of luck, really. I mean, I think that plays a big role in a lot of things that I do, and I'll take it. But no, man, I had my go-to locations that just really weren't producing, man. I just wasn't seeing many deer, and certainly wasn't seeing deer of any quality, and I kind of just didn't feel like in it 100% like I typically am. I just felt like I needed to search other avenues. So found a new location, talked to some people, and kind of whisked my way in. And really, by chance, meeting the right people at the right time, in all honesty. But was on this new piece of ground, and just was kind of going to check it out, check the boundaries, kind of see the layout of the land. And this was like just a week and a half before season opened here in California. And so I go out there midday because I was like, well, yeah, I'm going to bring a ground blind, and I'm going to bring a couple cameras and just kind of scope it out. So I jump on the quad, and I just take off, man, and start blowing dirt everywhere, just checking things out. And there's this bottom that comes down in there. It's like this little valley, and it's the layout of the land's a lot of sugar pine and ponderosa pines, but there's this big cluster of oak trees down in the bottom. I thought that'd be an awesome spot, and so let me back up. I didn't bring cameras the first time. So I'm scoping it out, and I found this little valley with these cluster of oak trees and real thick forest, to the east. I didn't venture into it too far, but this bottom looked great. It was shaded at all times for the most part during midday. I thought it'd be a great browsing location for bucks coming out of their beds. So I kind of decided, I'm going to put a ground blind down here, maybe a couple of cameras. I had identified a couple of trails along the way in and out that I thought might be key to surrounding the area to figure out the direction of travel. And so with that being said, I kind of learned a little bit, lay the land, the area. I head on home, and I plan on coming back in a few days and putting cameras in my blind at that point. So I come back middle of the day again, just least likely to booger something up in the middle of the day. Mind you, here we are, middle of August. My season's getting ready to start, so it's hot as shit, man. 95, 100 degrees, 105 degrees, so hard to stay in the game when it's that hot. But nonetheless, so I get out there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and in that very bottom that I decided to put, I was going to put my ground blind, just as I anticipated. There's a buck browsing for acorns in that cluster of oaks. Where he came from, I don't know, but I can only imagine he was bedding in that thick forest land over there, and was just coming out for a midday snack. Plenty of shade down there. You know, they're not getting too hot. They can kind of get back to their cover if they need to. So I was just pretty much justified my thoughts right there. So I felt warm and fuzzy about it. Now, with that being said, it was an incredible buck to boot. I didn't get a really good look at him, but he's 4x3, I believe, but he was at least 25 wide. I mean, I sent you the picture. You'd agree, right? 25 at least?
Yeah, man, that was a stud deer. It was real big. I was trying to figure out exactly how wide it was, you know, being that was, man, it's just so hard to tell, but being that it was a blacktail and, you know, they're kind of smaller frame deer than a whitetail. And but I still think, Chris, it was 24, 25 inches wide. Amazing deer.
Yeah, he was an awesome buck. So that got my blood flowing, man. And so I was anxious. So I kind of let him work out of the area. I watched him for as long as I could until he disappeared into the thicket. And I didn't really see which direction he went. So still a lot of unknowns, but I do know midday a monster buck shows himself. So I'm jacked, man, at this point. I'm jacked. I'm feeling confident. You know, prior to this, again, I just wasn't seeing many bucks or any quality deer for that matter. So I was, like, not really sure what I was going to do come the start of the season. So this was a good turning point for me mentally to kind of really get into it. So I placed my cameras, placed my blind, and then I leave, man. I just kind of leave the place for a while and just let things calm down. And I didn't plan on checking my cameras before season. I just was going to go off the information I had and go hunt that blind. And I was going to stick it out most of the day, given the fact that I'd seen that buck middle of the day, 95 degrees, which still baffles me. But
that does.
They're nomadic, man. They do what they want when they want, trail or no trail.
So to back up just for a minute, Chris, that's a totally proper grammar there, but were you, previously, I know you just basically ran into this property, you got it super fast right before hunting season. Did you do any sort of, pre-scouting from a plot map or aerial photos or Onyx maps, or how did you do it?
I use the Onyx maps all the time. It's so difficult because it's so heavily treed with forestry, big waters of pines. You can't really determine things too much by looking at the maps. I mean, I was able to make mental notes of the property, of the boundaries, and, I was able to locate that area that I had seen that buck and kind of just start marking points. Excuse me, I'm in heavy traffic right now. I'm trying to navigate here. I just marked some heavy points on the map for my own reference because I'm going to be going in at dark to a place I'm unfamiliar with. So I had a little bit of a hike to get in. But, so, yeah, Onyx maps, I just always zoom in, find locations, try to mark, my cameras the best I can, my blind the best I can, and I'm kind of going in blind at nighttime and not knowing what's going on at that time. During that time, I got in extra early, and I try to use minimal light as possible, usually a little red light, but it doesn't illuminate the air very well. So I had my Onyx maps on, too, to kind of help me navigate my way through the pines. But, so, yeah, man, so I was feeling pretty excited, man. I was looking at that map pretty much every day, just planning and just looking and just trying to predict where they might be bedded based on what I see on the map and where they might be coming from, because I didn't know any of that information at the time. But nonetheless, I was in a...
Previously, if you go back, Chris, a couple podcasts ago, with you, the last time we talked, I believe it was last time, wasn't it? You were dealing with, which seems to be every year now, that some fires in California, and that had totally kind of changed your season. Did you have to, in this area, deal with any of that this year, or?
No, the fires are just out of control in California. Still, again, around the same time. They're north of me, and they are north and east of me near the Yosemite Valley. So I'm not being affected by any of them, although we do get some haze in the air from the drifting smoke. But it's not really affecting me directly. But as you recall from our last podcast, I was having an issue with the marijuana grow operations that were happening. Remember?
Yeah, that's
and
right.
Those were also affecting the deer herds in my areas. Definitely, there was a slaughter fest going on of deer. At least one or two for sure that I know of, which contributed to the downfall as well. But it seems to be recovering to some degree. I'm seeing more animals, but the quality animals still aren't there. But still, I just couldn't justify putting that much time into it because of there just wasn't a lot going on. I mean, I can put cameras out all day long. I just wasn't seeing it. Wasn't seeing it on scouting trips. So
let me interrupt just 1 second. So if you're new to the podcast or or semi-recent listener since last season, kind of what Chris was just referring to is the guys that pretty much are growing marijuana are doing stuff to the deer herd out there, whether it's poison or shooting them at night, poaching them to basically protect the marijuana farms. And, it put a big hurt on a lot of the areas Chris was actually hunting. So I just wanted to say that's what Chris was actually referring to, which would kill anybody's mood or mindset going into the season when half or 70% of your deer herd's been knocked down.
Yeah, either they were poisoned or killed or just basically run off in essence because of all the new commotion that was going on, and they were popping up in huge numbers in small areas. So it was just changing the environment. On top of that, they were leaving a wake of disaster, behind them. But nonetheless, the rules are changing with the grow operations in California, and because they did legalize it, I think they're putting more restrictions on it. They've made it illegal now for commercial grows, and so hopefully things are going to start making changes. But with that being said, that's kind of contributed the last few years to my the difficult task of locating quality deer because I'm to a point in my life now where I really am focused on just killing mature animals the best I can. So without having those mature animals in the area, it's kind of hard to stay put. So back to 2018 here. So yeah, I got the new area, studied the Onyx maps, put my cameras out, didn't check my cameras before season, so I come rolling in super early on opening day on Saturday, August the 18th. I think I got out there about 4:30. I use my Onyx maps, my red headlamp. I just start walking through the trees and the pines, and my blind, I got a camera not too far from the blind. I have a trail to my left that comes out, and I don't know at what point they're using that, but it seemed like the best location for the camera. So I pull the card in the camera, get in the blind, get my camera set up, get all settled in, let things calm down, put the card in my camera, and start looking through the pictures, and I had 0 pictures. 0.
Zero?
I mean,
like
0.
Not even like a false trigger?
Not even a picture. Not even of me walking in front of the camera.
So that camera's in the garbage, safe to say?
No, it works just fine because I tested it when I left.
Oh.
So I don't know.
Happened?
I kind of reached over and I didn't stand in front of the camera and open it. I just reached over, did it, pulled the car, reached over, turned it off right away. But nonetheless, 0 pictures. So I'm having a really hard time. I'm already checking out. It's still dark outside. I'm already checking out. Like, I haven't seen any deer on camera whatsoever. I mean, I didn't really know what was in the area other than that one deer, really. And, I mean, I knew there was deer in the area because of, hearsay. But so I'm sitting in the blind just trying to really stay in it mentally. And it's hard because, and that's the bad thing about cameras, man. Sometimes you rely on them too much. We both know a deer can walk on the other side of the tree and you'll never get a picture of it, but he's there every day. We just, it plays tricks on your mind, man. We rely too much on them sometimes, and not seeing any deer on camera was just screwing with me, man. So I'm sitting in that blind super early now because I wanted to make sure everything's settled down, and I'm just trying to stay in it. I'm like, man, no pictures. I'm texting some friends like, yeah, I didn't get any pictures, man. I can't believe there's no photos. Just try to kind of being Mr. Negative, right? Because that's how my last few years have been because of circumstance. So I was like, well, I guess this thing can be any different. Anyway, so I stuck in there, man. I stuck in there, and it was super quiet. I didn't even hear – there weren't even any squirrels messing with me. You know, you hear that squirrel, and you're like, oh, is that a deer? Is that a deer? I don't know. I can't tell. Is it a squirrel? And your mind convinces you it's a deer. Not even that was happening. It was just dead quiet. And I'm just like, wow. So it breaks daylight. Still quiet, starting to warm up already. I'm in the shade. As I mentioned, that area's got a lot of shade, so it's a lot better than it should be. But still, I think we're like 6 in the morning, and we're sitting at like at 67 degrees or something like that. I think I checked the temperature right at first light.
So is that a normal morning temp, Chris, for this time of year?
Yeah, in that area, I'm about 3,000 foot elevation. So yeah, about that elevation
cooler.
Right now. Yeah, it's about 60 something degrees that early. It has been anyway because we had a big heat wave come through. So I'm sitting there, and it seemed like hours and hours and hours, but realistically it wasn't because I'd been there so early. So I'll just cut to the chase. About 7:20 a.m. or so, I can hear some commotion kind of to my left and behind me a little bit. I only have the front window of the blind open, and I'm not one to really peek out the windows because we all know where that gets us. Scare some deer away. Yeah. So I'm just listening now, and so I pan my camera to my left out the window because my camera can see more than I can. I just hit record because I knew they were coming. I could tell it was more than one deer. It sounded like they were chasing each other. Quite the commotion. It sounded like a circus. So I'm just watching my camera view, and I'm watching. Finally, I see a buck enter the view. I see the velvet. He's got his nose at the ground. He's searching for acorns. He's just going back and forth with his head, looking for acorns. And it's the buck I ended up taking, actually. He came first. But I had remembered seeing that big wide buck, and I was like, well, maybe he's there. So I mean, it worked out in the end, but it might have been stupid. I mean, I had that buck at 10 yards. He literally came right by my blind at 10 yards, quartering away from me. And I just let him go. And I wanted to see everything else that was there. Got greedy, I guess. So he came out, filtered out. The other bucks were right behind him. There was 2, 3, so there's 4 total now. And then I'm listening. There's nothing else. It's dead quiet from where they came from. So I think it's just these 4. You know, a couple of nice bucks in there, but a lot younger. And the one I was after was, oh, man, I think I had him about 5 or 6 years old plus. Anyway, so he's just shoving these bucks around, man. He's just pushing them off. If they come near him, he'd get up on his hinds and start pawing at them, and he'd shove them out of the way. And I was like, man, he's an asshole, man. And so I was going to use that to my advantage. He'd already done it twice, and they were just milling around because I'm right in the middle of the cluster of these oak trees, so everything's falling. And we had this real big recent fall of acorns right here. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to use that to my advantage. So at this point, he's somewhere between 20 and 30 yards, and they're just kind of milling back and forth. He's pushing those bucks out, coming back, working his way around. And it's like, well, next time I see a buck starting to approach him, I'm going to get ready to draw and use that to my advantage because now there's 4 bucks out there, and I felt like one of them was just burning the hole right through me. He kept looking at me. He may have been looking beyond me. But I was just getting nervous, man. So I went ahead and I had my camera rolling. I had him in frame, and I saw another buck approaching him, and I went ahead and clipped on my release. And as soon as I saw that buck start to load his legs up, I started to draw. And at that exact moment, he pushed that buck off, and all 3 of those other bucks scattered, every one of them at one time. So I came to full draw, perfect. Nothing was aware of my existence. Now I'm just waiting for that buck to turn because he's facing me. And he's kind of just milling through that, and he makes the turn quarter to me, and he opens up that front leg, and I'm like, gotcha. Right now, I thought he was around 20 yards. I didn't even range him. I said, but he's about 20. He ended up being 22. And I let that thing off, man, and I placed the absolute perfect arrow on that buck. And as the arrow went through him, he spun and ran right to me. And it's awesome on the camera, watching that buck come right at you. Came right towards the blind and veered off to my left. And at this point, I swiveled around on my chair, reached over the side window and pulled it down and looked. And as fast as I could do that, he was already laying dead out there about 15 yards. Just
wow.
In and out and done. I mean, it was the fastest kill I've ever seen in my life. I mean, that's what we all want typically. But, I mean, for me, just to spin in my chair, crack that window enough to look out there and just see him laying there. He wasn't even kicking, wasn't moving. He was just done. It was incredible, man. It was just crazy, the turn of events and how quickly they happened. And I was texting a good friend of mine, and he's like, I was like, I can't believe I have no pictures. He's like, well, maybe today's the day they're going to show up. he's being positive while I'm trying to pick apart all the negative things here. And so I remember my first text was to him because that text was still open. It was laying on the ground. I just text OMG, OMG, OMG. And he's like, are you fucking with me? I'm like, dude, I just killed the biggest buck of my life right now. And that's just, I mean, it really is no lead up to it other than that, man. And right place at the right time. We all know how important that is. We just got to be in the field as much as possible and hope we're there when they want to be there. And the stars definitely aligned, man. It was incredible. Man.
To kind of hit on a few things to take away from this story and what we can learn, like, Chris said, which is so true about having, an issue with the trail camera and then our mind plays tricks on us. But to go back into the story, Chris had been there already and saw deer sign and physically saw what you see that morning, 2 bucks when you went in the first time, Chris?
No, I just saw the big wide one.
One.
That's
okay.
the first one. Yeah, first one I saw. Yeah.
Okay, so you saw 1 buck. So, I mean, that solidified there was deer in the area, and on top of that, you saw a shooter buck. I mean, a great shooter buck.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's just always a constant reminder of trying to keep those voices out of your head, keep with it, and always think that, man, at any second our luck can change, because obviously you were in the right spot, had it scouted right, you knew there was food there, and it just, like you said, don't rely on the cameras, man. You just always got to have a positive mindset and believe in the scouting you've already. Chris?
Yep. Did I lose you for a second?
Yeah, lost you for a second. Sorry.
We're back. We're back in action.
Yeah, there we go. so I don't know if you heard that or what part we got lost on, but I was just talking that you got to always believe in the pre-scouting you've already done, and you did that and stuck in the blind, and that's something to take away from this episode.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's easy to get down in the dumps when things aren't going your way. I mean, I didn't even really give it a chance. I just didn't see any pictures, and I was just upset already. I was like, what? I can't believe all the sign I see down here. But anyway, yeah, so try not to rely on them too much, even though I tell myself that every time. I still look at that SD card, and still it gets me, man. If I don't see what I think I should see, I'm like, what the hell, and so it all worked out, man. It was amazing. It was awesome, man. And it's funny, back in 2014, Brandon, the first podcast you and I did, I shot my then biggest blacktail to date, and I think I stated on there that I will never shoot a bigger blacktail than this. Well, I shot a bigger blacktail than that. I never thought it would happen, dude. I almost want to go back and listen to that podcast from 2014 now because it's I just seriously thought that was it. That was the best I could possibly get. I never thought I'd ever get an opportunity to buck like that, let alone one bigger than that. And here we are.
Right.
It's crazy, man.
That is crazy. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's
cool, man.
It's a cool memory.
Yeah, you just never know, man. But he's an amazing buck, man. I mean, he's got the pictures don't really do him justice, and I probably should have done a better job at displaying his mass, but. He's not wide. I haven't put a tape on him whatsoever, not even a little bit. He's probably 18 wide, maybe a little less. But his mass from his bases to his tips, I mean, he just carries it all the way through. And he's got some kickers on his bases. He has 2 eye guards. California, they don't count that, though. All they count is the main frame. So he'd be a 4x3. But his mass is just ridiculous, man. I know on his right-hand side, I can't get my hand around his base. I can't touch my fingers around his base.
Yeah, when I got the pictures, man, that was the first thing I noticed. And I'm a true believer, like, when you tally up any score, mass has maybe the most to play with it or to add up with it. And, man, he's got coke hands for bases, and that mass carries all the way through that deer, which is just amazing.
Yeah, it does. And like I said, I haven't put a tape on him, but for the sake of argument here, he'd probably go 145, 150, which, I mean, he'd make book if I put him in, put him in Pope and Young or something like that. But I don't really have much interest in that personally. But I'll put a tape on them just for fun, and I don't know how it differs in velvet compared to hardhorn, because in velvet they're always a little bit bigger, but a little more mass. Regardless, I mean, it's just an incredible deer, man. I'd like to get him aged. Just to have mass like that, you got to be an old deer. And he was clearly a dominant deer in the herd. He was pushing everybody around, man. So he's definitely a good deer to take, because he's probably getting close to the end of his life naturally. And he's a dominant deer, and taking him out of the herd is going to make the ones that remain even stronger, and somebody's going to take his place. And I don't know. I think it was a good deer to take, man. I mean, it didn't take me but a half a second to see him to know I was going to shoot him, but I wanted to see what else was behind him before I decided to clip on that release.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm greedy. I shouldn't be so greedy, but because he was 10 yards, but at the same time, it's like I didn't want it to unfold that fast. I wanted to see this a little bit. I wanted to enjoy it for a second.
Yeah.
So I just, fortunately, I guess in my mind I was comfortable enough that he'd come walking through and I'd still get a chance at him when he got out in front of me.
No, I think that's
a little bit.
Yeah. I mean,
So
to talk about that for a second, I think it's really nice when you do have those hunts like that, because you're at ease with the situation, and your mind's in the right place, and you know that those deer weren't spooked at all, and you could sit back and actually be a part of the moment for an extra second, an extra minute, and that's only something you learn kind of with age and with time and within putting in many hunts. So it's cool to hear you say that you got to have that extra experience.
Yeah, and surprisingly, I've had my moments. I've had target panic a couple of times in my life that I can say, on a live animal, that's I've either made a marginal shot or just flat out miss, which we all would rather miss, make a marginal shot. But I was really amazed at how calm and collected I was, man. I mean, I decided that when that deer walked out, I'm going to shoot that deer, but I want to see what's coming up behind him first. But as soon as I decided to shoot that deer, I got really jacked up, man. My heart was in my throat, and I was shaking. But as soon as all the other deer cleared and I realized, okay, I am going to take this deer, I just concentrated on watching his moves. And that's, when like I said, I was going to let him push those other bucks off when they came close and use that moment to draw. And when I drew back, dude, I've never been so comfortable. He was he was almost center of my window, my blind. So I didn't have to do any weird leaning or any of that weird crap that I always seem to have to do in a ground blind. And it was like I was just at home practicing with a target, man. I was just in my position to be comfortable, and I drew back and I anchored and I settled in and it just squeezed it off. I mean, it was almost like it was just effortless. It felt like, which I've never experienced it in that fashion before, because everything always feels either rushed or anxiety's so high that I'm trying not to pull the trigger because I know I'm not ready. You know what I mean? And just try to creep that pin sometimes. That I fear you start creeping that pin and squeeze it off and you're creeping it. I mean, all these different factors that I recall over the past, 20-something years of hunting. And it's like this time it was like effortless, man. It was like I was doing it in my sleep. It was weird. It was really weird, man. It was almost like everything was meant to happen how it happened. And it was just phenomenal, man. And I was by myself, which I don't hunt by myself a whole lot. I always like to have somebody with me. It's fun to experience it with friends, but I was by myself, man, and it was just so serendipitous, man. It was just, and when that happened, it was like I sent that text initially, the OMG, big buck down type thing, but then I just literally sat there for a second. Like I didn't get out. I knew the deer was dead. I just sat there with my head in my hands, and I was like, I can't believe this just happened. I'm so lucky. I can't believe this just happened on a once-in-a-lifetime deer by most people's standards, and in our area, most people's standards. Sure. And just felt very fortunate, man. I still do. I'm still on cloud nine about the whole thing, man. And much respect to the animal, man. I mean, I always give a few moments with that animal of just silence and thanking him and Mother Nature for allowing things to unfold the way they did, and it was awesome, man. I'm just very grateful.
No, it's super cool, man. It's so neat to just very few hunts you get to be so in the moment like that and so connected without letting that anxiety and that, adrenaline take over, and it kind of captures the hunt. Even though that's exciting, it's nice to have that clarity that you had and then experience that adrenaline rush afterwards. And to me, that's the perfect hunt, and I've only achieved it a few times, and I always strive to achieve it again because it just means you're so present. And I just was super happy for you, and as always, man, just I think all week we've texted each other, I'm pumped, and then I write back, I'm pumped too, and it just keeps going. Like just a way to start the season, Chris. Super proud of you, one of the best blacktail hunters I know, and super excited to have you on the show today. Share all that with everybody.
Appreciate it, man. Always a good time talking to you, man. It's cool because we usually talk about the hunt, and then we do a podcast. This is the first time you're hearing it for the first time right now as well, so that's kind of cool. I get a little tongue twisted, man. I get so excited talking about it, as most of us hunters do, man. But I just kind of ramble. But man, this is the passion is just unrelenting, man. You know, to be outdoors and to be hunting and pursuit and the whole package, man. It's just I can't get enough of it. I have one more tag in my area, so I am gonna go ahead and keep after that big wide buck that I showed you a picture of, and whatever else may come along. I don't know what the survey of the area is as far as animals are concerned. There could be something bigger out there. I don't know. But I do know that I'm going to give it hell. I'm letting things calm down right now. I've got my refrigerator in the garage with all the meat in it, all the quarters in it, aging, rotating it every day. I'll give it about 5 days. I'll get that cleaned up, and I'll get back out there. I got to make room for that meat before I can start getting more deer. Not that I'm confident that's going to happen again.
No,
it's just there's
cool
a chance, and I want to make sure I got somewhere for them to go. So
yeah, and it's still super cool that you have still yet another experience with just a new property and learning it in like you said, surveying some of the management aspects of what the herd's like and how many animals. So I'm excited to see the rest of the season, how it folds out for you, and hopefully you stick an arrow in that big one, and we get to do this again here in the next couple weeks.
Oh, man, that would be awesome, man. I would have to do a double floor pedestal mount for that if that happened, man. You know what I mean?
That's a great idea.
I very rarely have I killed more than one deer in a season, unless I'm going multiple states. But in California, to take 2 in a season is not likely. But to take 2 trophy class animals in the same season it's just, that'd be incredible, man, if I could pull something off like that. Trophy class, that's very subjective to the individual, obviously, but
what all you're saying is an upper end age deer, and that's a trophy.
Upper end, a mature deer,
mature deer.
Yeah,
that's
it.
So
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'll give it hell, man. I'll keep after it, and trust me, you'll be one of the first ones to hear if anything happens, you know. So
yeah, I hope so. I love it, and I love those texts, and hopefully we can do it the same way. I was resisting the urge to hear the story. I wanted to, even today when we talked for a brief second this morning, I was like, save it for the podcast. I just wanted to experience with you through the podcast with everybody at the same time. So, but make it happen, Chris. I know you will, and we're going to do this again. All right, brother.
I look forward to it.
Well, I'll let you get back to work, doing your stuff, and I'll be looking forward to those texts. And, Chris, let everybody know where they can find you social media-wise.
Yeah, man. Instagram's the primary platform that we use. I mean, Facebook's kind of phased out because of all the political crap, for me anyway. So Instagram, horn_star_outdoors. My personal Instagram is ch_rocker. I am on Facebook. Just search Horn Star Outdoors. You can find me there. Chris Hall on Facebook as well. Yeah, man. Just trying to stay in the game here. So hopefully we'll have some more stuff coming up pretty quick here. I'll send you a little sneak peek of the video.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that, man. So thanks so much again, Chris, for being on today, and we'll be talking soon, I'm sure. And as everybody knows, you can find us every week on iTunes, podbros.com, Outdoor Podcast channel, and we'll be talking to Chris soon. See you guys later.